In SCP Containment Breach, survival depends on one terrifying rule: don't blink at the wrong time. The most famous threat, SCP-173, cannot move while you're looking at it. But the moment you blink, even for a second, it teleports instantly and snaps your neck. The game forces your character to blink automatically, turning a basic human action into a death sentence. You're constantly managing eye contact while exploring dark corridors, listening for footsteps, and planning escape routes. What makes this game truly disturbing is how it changes when you're not watching. SCP-173 doesn't walk, it teleports, breaking the player's sense of space and safety. Rooms that felt safe seconds ago become instant death traps. Even blinking at the wrong moment during a door animation can kill you. The environment itself feels hostile, as if the facility is alive and reacting to your fear. Unlike scripted horror, SCP Containment Breach creates emergent terror. The game doesn't need jump scares. Just the sound of stones scraping behind you is enough to trigger panic. Every time you look away, the world reshuffles positions, proving that sometimes looking is the only thing keeping you alive. Slender the Eight Pages flips a basic horror rule: looking is dangerous. Slender Man doesn't attack immediately. Instead, the more you look at him, the worse the game becomes. Screen static increases, sound distorts, movement slows, and eventually, death is unavoidable. The game punishes curiosity, forcing players to glance away while still tracking his position. As you collect pages, the forest changes emotionally, not physically. Music grows louder, ambient sounds fade, and Slender becomes more aggressive. When you look away, he teleports closer, manipulating distance in a way that feels unfair and intentional. You're never sure how far he is because the moment you stop watching, he moves. What makes Slender powerful is how it controls player behavior. You start avoiding landmarks, walking backwards, and scanning trees without staring too long. The game trains you to fear your own vision. Looking too much causes death. Looking too little allows him to close in. There are no weapons, no defense, and no escape mechanics. The only control you have is where you look and how long. Slender proves that horror doesn't need monsters that chase you. Sometimes all it needs is a presence that punishes attention itself. In Amnesia: The Dark Descent, looking at danger slowly destroys your mind. Monsters don't just kill you, they erase your sanity. Staring at them for too long causes the screen to blur, sounds to warp, and controls to weaken. But closing your eyes and hiding allows the monsters to move freely, roaming the environment unseen. This creates a horrifying balance. Looking confirms danger, but damages sanity. Looking away protects your mind, but removes awareness. Rooms feel different depending on how long you observe them. Darkness itself becomes a threat, draining sanity even when nothing is visible. The environment subtly shifts as your mental state worsens, making reality feel unreliable. What's terrifying is that the game never explains exactly how much looking is too much. Every encounter becomes psychological warfare. You question whether you really saw something, or if your broken sanity is lying to you. Sometimes monsters disappear when ignored. Other times they attack because you weren't watching. Amnesia doesn't rely on jump scares. It relies on anticipation. The game changes based on how you look, where you hide, and how long you stare into the dark. By making vision dangerous, Amnesia transforms fear into a constant mental pressure rather than a sudden shock. Layers of Fear is built around one terrifying idea: reality only exists while you're watching it. You walk into a room, turn around, and when you look back, the entire space has changed. Doors vanish, hallways stretch endlessly, and familiar rooms become unfamiliar nightmares. The game constantly rewrites itself the moment your attention shifts. There are no traditional enemies chasing you. Instead, the environment itself becomes the monster. Paintings distort, walls breathe, and architecture bends when you're not looking. The game trains you to fear turning around. Every step forward risks erasing the path behind you. What makes this game effective is its unpredictability. The changes aren't random, they're deliberate, psychological, and timed perfectly. You start second-guessing your memory, wondering if the room really changed or if you're losing your mind. The game weaponizes perception, forcing players to rely on unreliable visual cues. Layers of Fear doesn't punish mistakes, it punishes trust. Trust in your eyes, trust in space, trust in reality. By changing the world when you're not watching, the game creates a slow burning horror where every glance away feels like surrendering control. Superliminal turns perspective into a rule-breaking mechanic. Objects change size based on how you look at them. A small object held close becomes massive when dropped. A hallway can become a staircase if viewed from the right angle. The world literally reshapes itself when you stop observing it directly. Unlike horror games, Superliminal feels playful at first, but the deeper you go, the more unsettling it becomes. Rooms bend logic, gravity lies, and familiar objects behave unpredictably. Looking away isn't just part of the puzzle, it's how reality updates itself. What makes Superliminal unique is how it teaches players to break assumptions. The game forces you to question depth, distance, and scale. When you look away, the rules you thought you understood no longer apply. The environment becomes fluid, responding only to perception. As the game progresses, this mechanic becomes philosophical. It explores how perspective shapes reality, not just in games, but in life. Superliminal proves that sometimes the biggest changes happen when you stop staring directly at a problem and see it from a different angle. Hello Neighbor looks cartoonish on the surface, but underneath, it's one of the most unsettling AI-driven games ever made. The neighbor's house constantly changes based on your behavior. Routes you used before get blocked, windows disappear, new traps appear exactly where you felt safe earlier. The most disturbing part? The game learns from you when you're not looking. If you keep sneaking through a certain door, the neighbor starts guarding it. If you use the same hiding spot, it stops working. The environment adapts silently in the background. When you look away or return after failing, the house feels unfamiliar. Ladders are gone, cameras are added, the layout subtly shifts, making you doubt your memory. Hello Neighbor turns curiosity into paranoia. You're not just solving puzzles, you're being watched, studied, and countered. The more you play, the smarter the game becomes, making every mistake feel personal. Eternal Darkness doesn't just change when you look away, it changes when you lose focus. As your character's sanity drops, the game starts attacking the player directly. Rooms twist when you're not paying attention. Statues move. Walls bleed. But the real horror begins when the game breaks the fourth wall. Fake error messages appear, the volume slider moves on its own. The screen pretends to crash or delete your save file. These effects trigger when your attention slips, making you doubt the game, your console, and even yourself. You're never sure what's real and what's manipulation. Eternal Darkness was years ahead of its time. It understood that fear isn't just about what you see, it's about uncertainty. When the game changes behind your back, it turns trust into terror. The Stanley Parable changes not just when you look away, but when you refuse to look where the game wants you to. Ignore the narrator, skip paths, or hesitate, and the entire story restructures itself. Doors lock or unlock based on ignored choices. Entire sections appear only if you don't notice them at first. The game reacts to absence. Choices you didn't make matter just as much as the ones you did. The world feels alive, constantly rewriting itself in response to your disobedience or curiosity. Even standing still can trigger a different outcome. The game watches how long you hesitate, where you don't go, and what you refuse to see.
The Stanley Parable proves that sometimes the most powerful change in a game happens not when you act, but when you don't.
Devotion is a psychological horror game where the house itself reacts to what you don't notice. At first glance, it looks like a normal apartment, but the moment you turn away, rooms subtly change. Family photos disappear, furniture shifts, walls reveal hidden symbols. The scariest part? The game never tells you what changed. You only feel that something is wrong. When you revisit the same room later, your memory becomes unreliable. Was that door always there? Did that hallway exist before? Devotion plays with player perception, forcing you to question whether the environment changed or if you missed something earlier. This creates slow burn horror without jump scares. The game also uses sound brilliantly. Voices fade in only when you're not directly facing the source. Religious chants, whispers, and distorted prayers creep in when your attention drifts elsewhere. Looking directly at certain objects can even lock the game progression, forcing you to look away to move forward. Devotion proves that horror doesn't need monsters chasing you. Sometimes the scariest thing is realizing the world is rewriting itself behind your back, and trusting your own eyes becomes impossible.
Visage is pure psychological terror built around one simple idea: never feel safe, even when nothing is happening. The house in Visage constantly changes when you're not looking. You turn around and doors vanish. Hallways stretch. Lights you switched on suddenly turn off behind you. The game carefully punishes players who rely too much on observation. If you stare too long into dark corners or disturbing objects, your sanity drops. But if you ignore them, the environment mutates, new paths open, shadows move, and threats silently reposition themselves. What makes Visage terrifying is how normal everything looks at first. You might walk through the same corridor 10 times, feeling confident, until the 11th time, it's completely different. A mirror might reflect something that isn't there anymore when you look back. The house feels alive, watching your attention, waiting for you to relax. There's no clear trigger, no warning. The game changes rules quietly, forcing you to constantly second-guess your surroundings. Visage doesn't scare you with monsters. It scares you by teaching you that looking away is a mistake and looking too long is one too.